Challenging the status quo with bioplastics. Well, what are bioplastics? Bioplastics are a broad category of materials that are either derived from renewable biological sources or designed to be biodegradable. They offer an environmentally friendly alternative to conventional plastics, which are typically derived from non renewable fossil fuels and can persist in the environment for centuries. Key components of bioplastics. Source of material. Bioplastics are often made from natural renewable biomass sources, such as cornstarch, sugarcane, potatoes, cellulose, vegetable oils, or microorganisms. Unlike traditional plastics, which are synthesized from petroleum or natural gas, bioplastics use biological resources that can be replenished. Biodegradability. Many, but not all, bioplastics are designed to be biodegradable, meaning they can break down into natural components such as water, carbon dioxide, and biomass through the action of microorganisms under specific conditions, for example, industrial composting or natural environments. The chemical structure. Bioplastics can be identical in chemical structure to conventional plastics, like bio based polyethylene, or they can have entirely new structures like polylactic acid, or PLA. Hydrobiodegradable bioplastics are a class of biodegradable plastics that degrade primarily through hydrolysis, a chemical process involving water. This process breaks down the polymer chain into smaller molecules, which are then further consumed and decomposed by microorganisms into natural byproducts such as carbon dioxide, water, and biomass. These plastics are derived from renewable resources like starch, cellulose, or other plant based materials, and they require specific environmental conditions such as moisture and microbial activity to fully degrade. Well, key characteristics. Material source. Typically made from renewable biomass sources such as corn, sugarcane, potato starch, or cellulose, like previously mentioned. The degradation mechanism. The initial breakdown occurs through hydrolysis, followed by microbial activity that converts the fragments into natural compounds. End products. The final degradation products are non toxic and include carbon dioxide, water, and organic matter, the biomass. And the conditions required for degradation often requires industrial components conditions, for example, high temperatures or controlled moisture levels for complete degradation. Applications of hydrobiodegradable bioplastics are that they're used to make compostable food packaging like cutlery and shopping bags, medical devices like sutures and drug delivery systems that are biodegradable, and agricultural products like biodegradable mulch, mulch films and seed trays. Polylactic acid is a thermoplastic polyester that is biodegradable and bio based. It is synthesized from renewable resources such as corn, starch, sugarcane, or cassava. PLA has gained significant attention as an environmentally friendly alternative to petroleum based plastics due to its biodegradability, compostability, and versatility in applications. The presence of ester groups in polylactic acid allows for the molecule to undergo hydrolysis, which allows the molecule to degrade into its monomers with moisture and through microbial processes. PLA is thermally unstable at high temperatures, which means that it decomposes into monomers at around 200 degrees Celsius. PLA also has high tensile strength, but it is brittle, which can be improved by adding other compounds to polylactic acid. PLA is a polymer that is composed of lactic acid, otherwise known as 2-hydroxypropanoic acid, and lactide, which is a cyclic diester. What that means is that lactide is formed with two molecules of lactic acid undergoing condensation reaction to remove a water molecule and form a cyclic structure. What makes lactide unique is that lactide has three structural isomers based on the chirality of the lactic acid monomers that form lactide. Chirality describes a molecule that has enantiomers that are non-superimposable on the mirror images. LL-lactide is made from two L-lactic acids. DD-lactide is made from two D-lactic acid molecules, and mesolactide is made from one lactic acid and one D-lactic acid. Polymerization of PLA. The polymerization process of polylactic acid typically involves condensation polymerization or ring opening polymerization, depending on the method used to synthesize it. Below are the key steps of both processes. 1. Condensate polymerization. This process involves the direct polymerization of lactic acid molecules to form PLA. Lactic acid is typically derived through fermentation of renewable resources like cornstarch or sugarcane. Lactic acid molecules have both a hydroxyl group and a carboxyl group. In condensation polymerization, two lactic acid molecules react to form an ester bond. The reaction releases a water molecule, and the resulting product is a dimer, a two monomer chain. This process repeats as more lactic acid molecules join the chain. The polymerization continues, linking lactic acid units together through ester bonds to form long polymer chains, creating PLA. The condensation process typically involves a catalyst that is conducted at high temperatures and under a vacuum to remove the water byproduct. Ring opening polymerization. In this method, lactic acid is first converted to lactide, a cyclic dimer of lactic acid, which is more reactive and easier to polymerize. Lactic acid undergoes a dehydration process to form lactide, a cyclic ester. Lactide then undergoes a ring opening polymerization in the presence of a catalyst. The lactide ring opens up, allowing the lactide molecules to link together, forming PLA. This polymerization method typically leads to higher molecular weight PLA with better control over the polymer's properties. The degradation process of PLA involves both hydrolytic degradation and microbial biodegradation. PLA is considered biodegradable because it can break down into environmentally friendly byproducts under appropriate conditions. Hydrolytic degradation is the primary step in the breakdown of PLA, especially in industrial composting or moist environments. Water molecules attack the ester bonds in the PLA polymer chain, causing the long polymer chains to break into shorter chains, which reduces the molecular weight of the polymer. Over time, PLA is broken down into its monomers, lactic acid, or small oligomers of lactic acid. This process occurs more rapidly in high temperatures and in high humidity environments, such as industrial composting facilities, where temperatures typically exceed 50 degrees Celsius. However, in low temperature environments such as soil or water, hydrolytic degradation proceeds much more slowly. Microbial biodegradation begins after PLA has been hydrolyzed into smaller fragments or lactic acid. Microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi metabolize the lactic acid or its oligomers as a carbon source. Through enzymatic reactions, these microorganisms convert lactic acid into carbon dioxide, water, and biomass under aerobic conditions. Effective microbial degradation requires the presence of specific microorganisms, oxygen, and favorable environmental conditions, such as those found in industrial composting. In anaerobic conditions, such as landfills, the process produces methane instead of carbon dioxide. Several environmental factors influence the degradation of PLA. In industrial composting, under controlled conditions with high temperatures, moisture, and microbial presence, PLA can fully degrade within 2 to 6 months. However, in natural environments such as soil, marine ecosystems, or lower temperature conditions, PLA degrades much more slowly, taking years or even decades. Additionally, acidic or basic conditions can accelerate hydrolysis by catalyzing the breakdown of ester bonds. The final byproducts of PLA degradation include carbon dioxide, water, lactic acid, and biomass produced via microbial metabolism. These products are non-toxic and environmentally safe, making PLA a sustainable alternative to conventional plastics when disposed of properly in suitable conditions. Polymerization of polyhydroxybutyrate. Natural polymerization. PHB can be naturally produced in bacteria cells. They produce PHB under nutrient conditions like presence of an excess amount of carbon with a scarcity of nitrogen and phosphorus. Bacteria cells use PHB to act as an energy reserve when carbon is abundant around the cell. It all starts with simple carbohydrates like glucose being taken in by the bacteria cell and catabolized through a variety of processes to produce acetyl CoA. Before jumping to the end, let's walk through the process. First, glucose is broken down through glycolysis, which results in pyruvate being produced. The pyruvate then enters the mitochondria and goes through decarboxylation with the enzyme pyruvate dehydrogenase, which forms acetyl CoA. Then two molecules of acetyl CoA are then condensed to form acetyl CoA. Then acetyl CoA is then reduced to form 3-hydroxybutyryl CoA by the enzyme acetyl CoA reductase. With 3-hydroxybutyryl CoA, the enzyme PHA synthase catalyzes the polymerization reactions of the 3-hydroxybutyryl CoA monomers to form PHB. Industrial polymerization. Microbial cultivation. Industrial production of PHP typically uses bacteria such as Ralstonii eutrophiae or genetically modified organisms like E. coli. Fermentation. The bacteria are cultivated in large bioreactors under controlled conditions. A carbon rich feedstock is supplied, while nutrients like nitrogen are kept limited to trigger PHB production. Other fermentation bacteria cells are harvested, and PHB is extracted using solvents like chloroform or more eco friendly methods. Degradation processes of PHB. The degradation process of polyhydroxybutyrate involves both microbial activity and environmental factors, making it an effective biodegradable plastic. Microbial degradation. PHP is degraded primarily through enzymatic activity by bacteria and fungi that produce PHP depolymerases. These enzymes cleave the polymer into smaller fragments such as oligomers or monomers like 3-hydroxybutyric acid. The degradation products are then metabolized by microorganisms into carbon dioxide and water under aerobic conditions, or methane in anaerobic environments such as landfills. This degradation is influenced by the environmental conditions and microbial populations present. Environmental factors. The rate of PHB degradation is highly dependent on factors such as humidity, temperature, and the presence of microorganisms. Studies have shown that in moist, oxygen rich environments such as water saturated soil, PHB can degrade completely within weeks. Conversely, in drier or cooler environments, degradation is much slower, with the polymer persisting for months or years. In industrial composting settings, the process is significantly accelerated due to optimal heat and microbial activity. PHB's ability to fully degrade into non toxic byproducts makes it a promising alternative to traditional plastics. However, like other bioplastics, it performs best in controlled environments designed for composting. Applications of PLA and PHB. Packaging. PLA and PHB are used in food containers, trays, and covering ramps as an eco friendly biodegradable alternative to plastics like PE and PP. Disposable items. PLA and PHB are commonly used for biodegradable cutlery, tableware, and straws, providing a compostable alternative to conventional plastic products in food service. 3D printing. PLA and PHB are a popular material for 3D printing due to their low melting point, ease of use, and biodegradability, making them ideal for prototypes, models, and finished parts in various industries. Medical and healthcare. PLA and PHB are used in biodegradable implants, controlled drug delivery systems, and wound dressings, benefiting from their biocompatibility and gradual biodegradation in the body. Agriculture. PLA and PHB are employed in biodegradable mulch films that help retain soil moisture, control weeds, and reduce plastic waste in agricultural fields. Environmental applications. PLA and PHB are being explored for bioremediation, where biodegradation can help break down environmental pollutants. Oxo biodegradable bioplastics. Well, what are these oxo biodegradable bioplastics? They're conventional plastics that are enhanced with chemical additives to promote oxidation, a process that breaks down the polymer chains when exposed to environmental conditions such as heat, sunlight, and oxygen. This initial breakdown reduces the molecular weight of the plastic, making it more accessible to microbial degradation. While these plastics are designed to degrade faster than traditional plastics, they are not derived from renewable resources and are usually based on fossil fuel polymers like polyethylene or polypropylene. Key characteristics: typically made from petroleum based plastics that are modified with oxidation promoting additives such as transition metal salts. Degradation mechanism: it begins with oxidation, which fragments the plastic into smaller pieces followed by microbial action to complete the breakdown. The end products: the final degradation products are CO2, water, and in some cases microplastics if the degradation is incomplete. Conditions required for degradation: it requires exposure to heat, UV light, and oxygen for the oxidation processes to initiate. Applications of oxo-biodegradable bioplastics: they are used in single-use plastic bags in food packaging. They're also used in agricultural mulch films that degrade after use, and then they're finally used in disposable items like trash bags and plastic wraps. Oxopolyethylene. Oxopolyethylene is a type of polyethylene that has been enhanced with the addition of oxo additives, which include small amounts of metal salts such as iron, cobalt, or manganese. These additives accelerate the oxidation process when the plastic is exposed to oxygen and ultraviolet light, causing the polymer chains to break down more rapidly compared to traditional polyethylene. Oxopolyethylene's monomers are the same as polyethylene, which is ethylene. There is no difference in the actual structural formula of both polymers because the oxo additives are not a part of the repeating structure of the polymer, but act as catalysts for the oxidation process. Therefore, the monomer of oxopolyethylene is ethylene, and the polymer structure of oxopolyethylene is the same as polyethylene. Polymerization of oxopolyethylene. The polymerization process of oxopolyethylene is similar to that of traditional polyethylene, but involves the addition of oxo additives during or after the polymerization stage to promote oxidative degradation. Oxopolyethylene is based on conventional polyethylene, which is synthesized through the addition polymerization reaction of ethylene monomers. This process typically follows these steps. Ethylene is produced from petroleum or natural gas via cracking processes. It is a hydrocarbon with a double bond, making it highly reactive. Ethylene then undergoes a free radical or catalytic polymerization process to form polyethylene. Free radical polymerization. Initiated by free radicals, the double bond in ethylene breaks, forming single bonds, and the ethylene monomers link to form a long chain polymer. Industrial production often uses Ziegler Nada catalysts or metallocene catalysts to achieve controlled polymerization and tailor properties like density. Modification to create oxopolyethylene. To make polyethylene oxidegradable, oxo additives are incorporated. These are typically metal salts like manganese, cobalt, or iron that act as catalysts for oxidation. These modifications occur either during or after polymerization, like previously mentioned before. During polymerization, oxo additives can be blended into polyethylene resin during the polymerization stage, becoming embedded in the polymer matrix. After polymerization, alternatively, oxo additives are also incorporated into the polymer during the manufacturing of the final product. These additives do not chemically alter the polyethylene chain structure, but serve as triggers for degradation. Degradation process of oxo-PE. The degradation of oxo-degradable polyethylene involves breaking the polymer into smaller fragments and simpler components through chemical, thermal, photooxidative, and microbial processes facilitated by pro-oxidant additives. Photooxidation occurs when UV light breaks carbon to hydrogen bonds in the polymer, creating free radicals. These react with oxygen to form peroxyl radicals, leading to chain scission, reduced molecular weight, and the formation of carbonyl groups, aldehydes, and ketone. Over time, the polymer fragments into smaller pieces, eventually converting to carbon dioxide and water. Thermal oxidation is triggered by heat, where pro-oxidant additives decompose to produce free radicals that accelerate the breakdown. This process is similar to photooxidation, but occurs more rapidly under high temperatures. Chemical degradation is driven by pro-oxidant additives, such as transition metals, which lower the activation energy for bond cleavage, facilitating chain scission and polymer fragmentation. Biological degradation occurs after fragmentation when microorganisms may metabolize smaller oxidation byproducts like fatty acids. However, complete biodegradation of oxo-PE is rare since polyethylene itself is not inherently biodegradable. The degradation process often results in microplastic formation, as oxidative process fragments the material into tiny particles that persist in the environment. These microplastics and some byproducts, such as aldehydes and ketones, can be toxic and contribute to pollution. Factors like UV intensity, temperature, oxygen availability, and humidity influence degradation. While oxo-PE degrades faster than traditional polyethylene, it still poses significant environmental risks due to the microplastic formation and incomplete biodegradation. Oxopolypropylene is a type of polypropylene that has been modified with the inclusion of oxo additives, which are metal-based catalysts such as iron, cobalt, or manganese, like previously mentioned before. These additives facilitate the oxidative degradation of the polymer when exposed to oxygen and ultraviolet light. While traditional polypropylene is durable and non biodegradable, The incorporation of these additives causes the polymer chains to break down more rapidly in the presence of UV radiation and oxygen. This process accelerates the plastic's degradation, making it more environmentally friendly compared to conventional PP, which is polypropylene, which can persist in the environment for a long time. However, it is important to note that this degradation process does not fully biodegrade this plastic, leading to the formation of smaller fragments rather than a complete breakdown into non toxic components. The monomer that makes up oxypolypropylene is propylene, which is a simple hydrocarbon with a double bond between two carbon atoms. There would be no difference in the structural formula of polypropylene and oxopolypropylene because the oxo additives act as catalysts and are not a part of the actual structure itself. Polymerization of oxopolypropylene. Like previously mentioned before, oxopolypropylene is a modified version of polypropylene that incorporates additives to promote degradation under certain environmental conditions. The polymerization process to produce the base polymer, propylene, is the same as for traditional polypropylene. However, oxo additives are introduced after the polymerization stage. Polypropylene is created through addition polymerization of the monomer propylene. This involves breaking the double bonds in propylene to allow the monomers to link together in a long chain. Propylene is a simple hydrocarbon chain that contains a double bond between the first two carbon atoms. The polymerization is typically carried out using a Ziegler-Natta catalyst or meta-allocene catalysts, which are effective in controlling the stereochemistry of the polymer. The catalyst then activates the propylene monomer, causing the double bond to break. The monomer units link together in a repeating chain with head to tail arrangement. Depending on the stereochemistry, different forms of polypropylene can be produced, such as isotactic, syntactic, and or atactic polypropylene. After polypropylene is synthesized, it is modified to create oxopolypropylene by incorporating oxo additives. These are typically metal-based compounds added to the polymer matrix. These additives do not change the chemical structure of the polymer itself, but act as catalysts to initiate oxidative degradation. Degradation processes of oxopolypropylene. The degradation of oxopolypropylene involves several stages, primarily driven by oxidation, with the help of oxo additives, typically metal salts or chemical additives. These additives accelerate the breakdown of polypropylene when exposed to environmental factors like light, heat, and oxygen. Photooxidation. Exposure to sunlight excites the polymer and oxo additives. This generates free radicals, causing the polymer chains to break down into smaller fragments. As the chains break, the polymer's molecular weight decreases, weakening its physical properties. Thermal degradation. High temperatures accelerate degradation by activating the oxo additives, promoting oxidative breakdown. This results in thermal oxidation, which reduces the polymer's molecular weight again and makes it even more brittle, leading to further degradation under environmental influences. Chemical oxidation. Oxygen exposure, facilitated by oxo additives, incorporates oxygen into the polymer structure, creating peroxide groups. These groups make the polymer more vulnerable to breaking down into smaller fragments, reducing its strength, flexibility, and overall durability. Biodegradation. After oxidative degradation, smaller polymer fragments may undergo biodegradation by microorganisms. Though this process is often slow and inefficient, this can leave behind microplastics if the polymer has not fully degraded into simpler compounds. Formation of microplastics. As a polymer fragments during photooxidation and thermal degradation, it can form microplastics. These tiny particles are difficult to remove from the environment, where they can persist, causing ecological harm and potentially entering the food chain. Final degradation products. In ideal conditions with high microbial activity and moisture, oxopolypropylene may degrade into carbon dioxide, water, and other organic compounds. However, this process is slow and incomplete degradation often results in the formation of microplastics. Environmental considerations and criticism. While oxopolypropylene aims to degrade faster than conventional plastics, concerns remain about its incomplete degradation, the persistence of microplastics, and potential toxic byproducts. The effectiveness of the degradation process in real-world environments is still debated and doubted, as it depends on various factors such as environmental conditions and time, which are not easy to control and are at the hand of Mother Nature. Applications of oxopolyethylene and oxopolypropylene. OxoPE and OxoPP is widely used in various industries due to its degradable properties and environmental benefits. In packaging materials, OxoPE and OxoPP is commonly used for plastic bags, including grocery bags, retail bags, and garbage bags, because of its lightweight, and degradable nature. It is also utilized in films and wraps for short-term food packaging applications. In agricultural applications, OxoPE and OxoPP are applied in mulch films to suppress weeds, conserve soil moisture, and regulate temperature. These films naturally degrade over time, reducing the need for manual removal. Additionally, crop covers made from OxoPE protect plants from pests and temperature fluctuations, eventually breaking down under environmental conditions. For disposable products, OxoPE and OxoPP is used in single-use tableware such as cutlery and plates, offering a more environmentally friendly alternative to traditional plastics. It is also integrated into diaper linings and non-biodegradable diapers to enhance the degradation of plastic components. In waste management solutions, OxoPE and OxoPP are used in bin liners and trash bags designed to degrade in landfill environments, helping to reduce long-term plastic buildup. In medical and sanitation products, OxoPE and OxoPP are employed in hospital waste bags as a degradable option for biohazard waste disposal. It is also a component in sanitary products, such as medical aprons, gloves, and other hygiene related items. Canada has made notable contributions to bioplastics research and development, focusing on sustainable materials, waste reduction, and enhancing the economic viability of bioplastics. University of Toronto. Researchers at the University of Toronto have made significant strides in developing bio-based polymers from renewable sources like lignocellulosic biomass and waste plant material. Their work on improving the properties of cellulose nanofibers and nanocellulose for use in bioplastics is helping to create stronger, lighter, and more durable materials. McGill University. McGill's researchers are investigating bio based polymers and have worked on developing compostable bioplastics from chitin contained in the shells of crustaceans. Their goal is to create alternatives to petroleum based plastics in the packaging and food industries, focusing on both biodegradability and strength. University of British Columbia. UBC has been active in algae based bioplastics, aiming to develop biodegradable plastic alternatives that require fewer resources to produce. Their studies focus on using microalgae as a feedstock for producing both biodegradable plastics and valuable co-products like biofuels. Well, what are the pros and cons of bioplastics and petroleum plastics, and why would we ever need to substitute it? What is the point? Well, the pros of hydrobiodegradable bioplastics is that they are made from renewable materials such as starch or PLA, sourced from plants like cornstarch and sugarcane, reducing reliance on fossil fuels. Over their life cycle, they produce fewer greenhouse gases compared to petroleum based plastics, minimizing their environmental impact. These bioplastics are compostable in industrial composting facilities where they break down into non toxic components like water, carbon dioxide, and biomass, avoiding harmful residues and products. They also degrade rapidly in suitable environments, leaving no microscopic residue. However, there are some disadvantages. Hydrobiodegradable plastics have limited mechanical strength compared to traditional plastics, which makes them unsuitable for some high performance applications. Their production competes with agriculture resources, potentially affecting food crop availability. These bioplastics require specific conditions such as high temperature and humidity to degrade efficiently, meaning they won't break down properly in landfills or marine environments. Additionally, they degrade poorly in natural settings like soil or water, contributing to persistence in their ecosystem. Their production costs are higher than those of petroleum based plastics, making them less economically viable for widespread use. Well, what are the pros and cons of petroleum based plastics? Some advantages to petroleum based plastics are that they are inexpensive and produced at large scales with well established manufacturing infrastructure. These plastics offer superior mechanical properties such as high tensile strength, flexibility, and durability, making them ideal for a wide range of uses and applications. The global infrastructure for producing and recycling these plastics are also extensive, facilitating their easy production and distribution. Some of the disadvantages to traditional plastics are that they're derived from non renewable petroleum, contributing to resource depletion and carbon emissions. The production processes releases significant greenhouse gases, and the plastic themselves persist in the environment for hundreds of years, causing pollution, especially in oceans and landfills. As they degrade slowly, they break into microplastics that harm ecosystems. Although recycling is possible, it remains economically inefficient, and many plastics still end up in landfills. Well, what are some of the pros and cons of oxo-biodegradable plastics? Well, the advantages of oxo-biodegradable plastics are that they're made from petroleum-based materials with additives that speed up degradation. What this does is this causes the plastics to degrade faster than traditional plastics under specific environmental conditions, such as heat, light, and oxygen. This makes them useful for reducing visible plastic waste, particularly in outdoor environments. Since these biodegradable plastics are made from petroleum, this allows them to be compatible with existing plastic production systems, which overall reduces the cost of having to install new infrastructure to synthesize these oxo-biodegradable plastics. Well, the disadvantages to oxo-biodegradable plastics is that despite their accelerated degradation, oxo-biodegradable plastics still break into microplastics, which persist in the environment and cause long-term ecological harm. The additives used to enhance degradation can release toxic byproducts, posing risks to the ecosystem and human health. Like traditional plastics, oxo-biodegradable plastics rely on non-renewable petroleum resources. Their degradation depends on UV light, heat, and oxygen, meaning they may not break down properly in anaerobic environments like landfills, leading to incomplete degradation and ongoing pollution. While they degrade faster than conventional plastics, they still don't fully materialize and mineralize into harmless substances. This continues to contribute to environmental pollution. Now that we looked at the pros and cons of each material, well, we have to determine which bioplastic can replace these traditional plastics. We can come to the conclusion that hydrobiodegradable bioplastics are generally a more suitable alternative to traditional plastics because they're made from renewable resources. They have a lower carbon footprint and break down into harmless byproducts in the right conditions. While they face challenges such as limited mechanical strength, higher production costs, and dependence on specific composting facilities, their environmental benefits outweigh these limitations. In contrast, the reason why we can't use oxo-biodegradable plastics, even though they're faster to degrade than traditional plastics, they still rely on petroleum. They form microplastics, and they may release toxic byproducts during degradation. Their degradation depends on specific environmental conditions and doesn't guarantee full mineralization, making them a less reliable long-term solution for reducing plastic pollution. Therefore, hydrobiodegradable plastics are the more sustainable choice overall, particularly when considering long-term environmental benefits and their potential to reduce dependence on fossil fuels. Thank you.